Hi, I am Anna. I come from www.ntvforex.com. US dollar remains on soft footing as US stimulus talks stall. Analysis http ntvforex.com News ID 02BB50813 2029 2 am Notes Observations Standoff between Democrats and Republicans over another coronavirus relief bill showed no signs of abating. NBSP Asia Australia AUG Consumer Inflation Expectation Survey 3.3% v 3.2% prior. Australia July Employment Change 114.7 k v 25.0k Unemployment Rate 7.5% v 7.8%. ERBNZ Deputy Gov Baskand noted that a resurgence of coronavirus in New Zealand was a big risk to outlook. Will probably do combo of negative OCR and funding for lending program if additional stimulus was needed. NBSP Coronavirus Total global cases 20,550,481 1.6% DD Total deaths 748.4k 1.1% DD NBSP Europe EU Official The EU AMP US should intensify their attempts to negotiate a solution to ongoing trade concerns. The USA decision to not increase tariffs on EU goods avoid adding to their ongoing disputes. NBSP America's U.S. Treasury Secretary Mnuchin noted that stimulus negotiations were going nowhere. USTR EU and member states have not taken the actions necessary to come into compliance with the WTO decision in the Airbus-Boeing case. U.S. committed to obtaining long-term resolution to dispute over aircraft subsidies will begin a new process with the EU to maintain 15% tariffs on Airbus aircraft and 25% tariffs on other European goods. NBSP Speakers Fixed Income FX Commodities Iratum Equities Indices STOXX 6000.26% at 374.02, FTSE 0.93% at 6221.76, DAX 0.10% at 13,045.65, CAC 40 0.08% at 5,069.47, IBEX 35 0.12% at 7,287.00, FTSE MIB 0.13% at 20,411.50, SME 0.19% at 10,298.00, S&P 500 Futures 0.03%. Market focal points. Key themes. European indices open modestly lower across the board and stayed in the red as the session wore on. Better performing sectors include telecom and consumer discretionary materials and financial sectors. Among underperformers, UK CMA provisionally requiring funeral directors to provide prices. US yesterday left tariffs. Spain raised on Germany and France. Delivery Hero to replace Wirecard on DAX. Focus on U.S. initial jobless claims. Earnings expected in the upcoming U.S. session include Messiah S., Brookfield Asset Management and Alibaba. NBSP Equities Consumer Discretionary Dignity DTY.UK 7% response to UK CMA 2ETUI1.DE 6% earnings. Consumer Staples National Express NEX.UK 13% earnings. Energy RWE.DE 1.5% earnings. Financials Swiss Life SLHN.CH 3% earnings. Just Group Just.UK 13% earnings. Zurich Insurance Group Zurn.CH 1.5% earnings. Aegon AGN.NL 13% earnings. Industrials ThyssenKrupp TKA.DE 14% earnings. Nordex NDX1.DE 7% earnings. Technology Wirecard WDI.DE 13% to be excluded of DAX. Telekom Deutsche Telekom DTE.DE 2% earnings. NBSP Speakers German Health Minspan commented that the rise in German coronavirus cases was a concern but remained optimistic of a vaccine in coming months. EU Commission acknowledged US decision not to exacerbate ongoing Airbus dispute by increasing tariffs on EU products. Russia Energy Min Novak oil market balancing out and gradually stabilizing. OPEC JMMC Technical Committee would not discuss changes to agreement in August. IEA monthly oil report cut its 2020 global oil demand contraction from 7.9 mbpd to 8.1 mbpd and cut the 2021 global oil demand growth from 5.3 m to 5.2 m. IEA maintained its 2020 global oil supply at 7.1 mbpd and maintained 2021 global oil supply at 1.7 mbpd. NBSP currencies fixed income USD remained on softer footing in the session but contained within recent ranges. Dealers did cite the lack of progress in the U.S. COVID-19 stimulus negotiations as a factor. Talks between the Republicans and Democratic officials appeared to have stalled at this point. Dealers noted that Congress must pass legislation by September to prevent a government shutdown and saw lawmakers as opting to approve a temporary measure that would fund the government until after the election. Euro USD higher by 0.5% at 1.1835. The January 1900 area continues to be the key short-term resistance. EU inflation and unemployment data continued to point towards improvement. NBSP economic data 5 Finland June final retail sales volume YY 7.1% v 4.5% prelim 5 Finland June current account balance A 0.4 b v A 0.4 b prior FR France Q2 ILO unemployment rate 7.1% v 8.3% E mainland unemployment rate percent v 8.3% E to Germany July final CPI MM 0.5% EV 0.5% prelim YY 0.1% EV 0.1% prelim to Germany July final CPI EU harmonized MM 0.5% v 0.5% EYY 0.0% v 0.0% E to Germany July wholesale price index MM 0.5% v 0.6% prior YY 2.6% v 3.3% prior No Norway Q3 consumer confidence 6.6 v 3.4 prior ES Spain July final CPI MM 0.9% v 0.9% EYY 0.6% v 0.6% EES Spain July final CPI EU harmonized MM 1.6% v 1.6% EYY 0.7% v 0.7% EES Spain July CPI core MM 1.2% v 0.1% prior YY 0.6% v 1.0% prior CZ Czech July CPI MM 0.4% v 0.2% EYY 3.4% v 3.1% ECZ Czech June export price index YY 2.0% v 2.8% prior import price index YY 1.5% v 0.7% prior CZ Czech June current account CZK 1.8 b v 8.0 b is Iceland July international reserves ISK TV 1.009 t prior NBSP fixed income issuance IT Italy. Debt agency Tesoro sold total AB 6.75 versus A 5.25 6.75 B indicated range in 3-year, 7-year, and 30-year BTP bonds sold A 2.75 B versus A 2.25 2.75 B indicated range in 0.30% August 2023 BTP bonds average yield 0.08% v 0.30% prior bid to cover 1.63x v 1.57x prior July 14, 2020 sold A 2.75 B versus A 2.25 2.75 B indicated range in 0.95% September 2027 BTP average yield 0.72% v 0.95% prior bid to cover 1.43x v 1.38x prior July 14, 2020 sold A 1.25 B versus A 0.75 1.25 B in 2.45% September 2050 BTP bond average yield 1.91% bid to cover 1.39x NBSP looking ahead e.g. Egypt Central Bank interest rate decision current lending rate at 10.25% current deposit rate at 9.25% 0530 ZA South Africa June total mining production MM 1.0% EV 44.0% prior YY 20.0% EV 29.8% prior gold production YY no ESTV 20.3% prior platinum production YY no ESTV 27.3% prior 0530 WHO Hungary Debt Agency AKK to sell bonds 0600 IE Ireland July CPI MM no ESTV 0.3% prior YY no ESTV 0.4% prior 0600 IE Ireland July CPI EU harmonized MM no ESTV 0.6%. Prior YY no ESTV 0.4% prior 0600 PT Portugal Q2 labor costs YY no ESTV 6.5% prior 0600 RO Romania to sell RON 400M in 4% 2023 bonds average yield percent V 3.46% prior bid to cover XV 1.81x prior 0645 US daily LIBOR fixing 0700 CZ Czech Central Bank to comment on CPI data 0800 PL Poland June current account balance A2.2 BV A2.5 B prior trade balance A1.1 BV A1.3 B prior exports A18.2 BV A15.7 B prior imports A16.6 BV A14.5 B prior 0800 BR Brazil June IBGE services sector volume YY 12.7%. EV 19.5% prior 0800 in India July CPI YY 6.3% EV 6.1% prior 0800 UK Daily Baltic Dry Bulk Index 0830 US July Import Price Index MM 0.6% EV 1.4% prior YY 3.1% EV 3.8% prior Import Price Index ex Petroleum MM 0.1% EV 0.3% prior 0830 US July Export Price Index MM 0.4% EV 1.4% prior YY no ESTV 4.4% prior 0830 US Initial Jobless Claims 1.10 MV 1.186 M prior Continuing Claims 15.80 MV 16.107 M prior 0830 US Weekly USDA Net Export Sales 0900 RU Russia Gold and Forex Reserve WE August 7th. No ESTV $591.8 billion prior 1030 US Weekly EIA Natural Gas Inventories 1100 CO Colombia June Manufacturing Production YY 15.0% EV 26.2% prior 1100 CO Colombia June Retail Sales YY 13.1% EV 26.8% prior 1100 CO Colombia June Trade Balance $0.4 BV $0.5 billion prior Total imports $2.8 BV $2.9 billion prior 1130 US Treasury to sell 4-week and 8-week bills 1200 CA Canada to sell 3-year bonds 1400 MX Mexico Central Bank Banxico interest rate decision expected to cut overnight rate by 50 BPS to 4.50% 1500 AR. Argentina July National CPI MM 2.2% EV 2.2% prior YY 42.8% EV 42.8% prior 1500 CO Colombia June Industrial Production YY no ESTV 22.80% prior 1700 KR South Korea July Export Price Index MM no ESTV 0.3% prior YY no ESTV 6.0% prior 1700 KR South Korea July Import Price Index MM no ESTV 2.5% prior YY no ESTV 7.3% prior 1830 NZ New Zealand July Business Manufacturing PMI no ESTV 56.3 prior 1900 PE Peru Central Bank BCRP interest rate decision expected to leave reference rate unchanged at 0.25% 1930 ORBAS Low in Parliament Economic Committee 2130 CN China July New Home Prices MM No ESTV 0.6% prior 2200 CN China July Industrial Production YY 5.1% EV 4.8% prior Industrial Production YDD YY 0.4% EV 1.3% prior 2200 CN China July Retail Sales YY 0.1% EV 1.8% prior Retail Sales YDD YY 9.0% EV 11.4% prior 2200 CN China July YDD Fixed Urban Assets YY 1.6% EV 3.1% prior 2200 CN China July YDD Property Investment YY 2.5% EV 1.9% prior 2200 CN China July Surveyed Jobless Rate 5.6% EV 5.7% prior 2230 KR South Korea to sell KRW 750 BL and 50-year bond 2300 CN China to sell 3-month and 6-month bills 2330 JP Japan to sell 3-month bills. Subscribe our channel to receive the news as soon as possible. Thank you for watching. If you want to read real-time news, text messages to MT5 Expert Advisors page at https://m.me/mt5.expert.advisors.